Now that the New Year's madness is over, it's time to work on your story for 2018. LegalZoom can help you make this the year you finally get serious about launching and running your own business. It can also help you rest a little easier knowing that your family's future is squared away with the right estate plan. As a matter of fact, LegalZoom has been helping people just like you take care of their dreams and responsibilities for more than 16 years. Now, LegalZoom is not a law firm, but they have the resources to keep you on the right path, including advice from their nationwide network of independent attorneys, all at your fingertips. Whether you want to take your business to the next level or take control of your family's future with an estate plan, LegalZoom plugs right into your life without billing you by the hour, because at LegalZoom, all pricing is given up front. Start writing your 2018 story with LegalZoom right now. Go to LegalZoom.com/Golic and get special savings. That's LegalZoom.com/Golic. LegalZoom, where life meets legal. LegalZoom.com/Golic.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
Don't forget, we've got Joe Thomas coming up at 8:30 Eastern, a legendary Browns offensive lineman who is working with us for a couple of days. I'll be with him today, a little later on NFL Live. And, Joe is an open book, and he does a lot of really fun stuff on social media for the Browns and on his own account. So we're including your questions for Joe in our hashtag Twitter view. Please use the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed to submit your questions to Joe, and we'll get to him.
Looking forward to having him on. And Mike, I'm just going to flat out tell you, we're going to steal from you. I like what you guys are doing on your show, First and Last, you and Allie.
Yeah.
What's the questions you're
Super Decision Series.
Super Decision Series leading up to the Super Bowl, correct?
Yeah.
We're just going to steal it, if you don't mind.
I'm pretty used to it at this point. Like, that's basically what the 4 to 6 a.m. radio ground is a harvesting space for content for the rest of the day that we don't get credit for ever.
Oh, you think we take other stuff of yours and use it? And don't credit you?
Yeah, pretty much. Most of my takes. Listen, I listen later in the show occasionally, and I hear a fair amount of my takes. So
hot takes, huh?
You're welcome for my takes. By the way, Joe Thomas has a lot of fun on social media doing all that stuff, does a lot. You know what he doesn't do?
What?
Answer my DMs.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
Thanks for coming on the pod, Joe.
I'll ask him why today. But what was the question this morning? And we're going to have Allie put it up at Golic and Wingo.
Yeah, the question this morning. So we got the Super Bowl coming up, and this actually started because of a conversation I had with Mina Kimes here, who writes for ESPN the magazine, and is she's
a mad Seahawk fan, correct?
Insane.
In such a way that it makes me actually uncomfortable sometimes, her reaction to it. But we brought up the subject of having to watch a game with your team involved with people who aren't as interested, and she was staunchly against this. And so it got us thinking, if your team was getting ready to play in the Super Bowl, would you rather watch the game completely alone or watch it with a group of people, knowing that the Super Bowl is a big event for a lot of people? Like Super Bowl parties are a big part of American culture. So if your team is playing in the game, would you rather watch the game alone or at a party?
Okay. All right. Allie will put that up at Golic and Wingo.
And again, to your point, it depends on if the people at the party are at your level of interest. Because if you're swimming into the shallow end of the pool and you don't understand the struggles my team has on 3rd and 7 or our cornerbacks against double moves, I can't be with you at this moment. I cannot have the conversation with you explaining why that's important as we're watching whether or not my team is going to be the king of all the land for 365 days. That can't happen.
I don't need some dad coming up to me and just unloading his takes about what the offseason moves for this team looked like. We're good, man. We're all here to watch this game right now. Let's save that for later.
And listen, or not even knowing. Oh yeah, get that Peyton Manning guy. No, he retired 2 years ago.
And again, there are obviously millions and millions and millions of people who are involved in watching the Super Bowl, and some love the party atmosphere of that. So,
and it's great.
It is great. So I'd imagine we'll get some interesting answers, but there's no shot I could watch my team play if I was vested in it at a Super Bowl party. No shot.
The one place that Allie brought this up that I thought was interesting was, listen, there's a lot of food and drink at these parties. It gets pretty depressing if you're watching the game angrily alone, drinking by yourself.
That's true.
So if you want to actually, imbibe and enjoy the party, probably best to do that with others. So you're limiting your options.
Angry and drinking alone? No, we call that Thursdays around here.
Okay. There you go.
Let's get into it with what's trending. And what's trending is the Cavs continue to trend like planes, trains, and automobiles. You're going the wrong way.
Yep.
You're going to kill someone. Cavs head coach Tyronn Lue says it's time to shake things up, Mike. He's going to make some changes.
Yeah, he had said he wasn't going to do that, and then post player meeting, coaches obviously were there as well, and management, that they didn't play well, still lost against the Spurs and did not look good. Tyronn Lue basically out of the guise of, hey, you guys talked the talk and didn't walk the walk, so now we're going to make some changes. One of the players on the team said of that meeting, basically everybody wants accountability, but nobody actually wants to be held accountable. Said another player from the kind of the old guard faction of the roster, there's no trust out there on the court. This is the worst it's been. So what are the possible changes? Tristan Thompson going in, Kevin Love moving out to forward, and Jay Crowder being off the court, J.R. Smith, who moped early in the season when Dwayne Wade was starting and he wasn't, now isn't shooting for anything, and even said, hey, if I have to go to the bench, I understand because I'm not shooting well, so does Dwayne Wade come back out and start as well? So we'll see where the changes come.
It was interesting last night in watching that game and watching Tony Parker and Dwayne Wade, both all-time legends at their position, guys that are future Hall of Famers, coming off the bench and having a lot of success. I think Dwayne Wade was up in double digits, had I think around 18 points last night, and Tony Parker was a lightning rod for them, just recently moved to the bench, right, coming off in that role. And I don't know, for the Cavaliers, maybe part of it is you're looking for continuity right now, so Dwayne Wade and LeBron James at least have a history on the court together, although not in this team. It's at least someone whose game you're used to in that role. Him and Derrick Rose in the backcourt provided at least some energy in the third quarter, and that's the one thing Ty Lue was most disappointed in, was that lack of energy for this team coming off of that meeting. Those guys at least gave a spark. They were closing out on defense. They were getting into some semblance of offense on offense, yeah. That wasn't just standing around and watching LeBron James drive to the hole.
Dwayne Wade, 18 minutes, 6 of 8 shooting, 12 points in the game.
All right, 12, yeah.
Look, at this point, they're looking for anything.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Whatever they can hold on to that might make them feel better about the prospects going forward, you latch onto that like grim death, okay? You're like a La Jolla man clinging to life, an Anchorman. You will do whatever you want with that situation. College basketball, Trae Young adjusts his game and leads Oklahoma to an upset win over number 5 Kansas, saying he wants to manage his game better after chucking up 39 shots in a loss to Oklahoma State on Saturday. The freshman didn't even attempt a three-pointer until the 15-26 mark of the second half against Kansas. Yeah, and he took the 4 shots first half all inside the arc. I mean, listen, you got to give him credit. Here's a guy who the coach, Lon Kruger, wanted him to play more efficiently, played more efficient, still got 26 points and helped his team win. Kansas, drops to 6-2 in the conference. Oklahoma now sitting at 5-3 in the conference. So you got to like that part of it. Hey, change your game up a little bit. Let's be more efficient. He does it, and it works.
It's a great feather in his cap to be coachable. It's even better if you're the coach and you look at that and see, wow, look how easy it is for Pim to pick up the things that I want to do. There are plenty of guys you can tell to go out and do it, and they're not capable of doing it. And oh, by the way, it wasn't like he did this in some non-conference warm-up game. This was against the number 5 team in the country in Kansas. So I think that's encouraging for him going forward, coming off a time where we had waffled so hard on either the wild praise of his numbers or going against the turnovers and all the things that have been a detriment, and recognizing that this probably more than anything is what makes this kid special.
Did you just say waffle?
Yeah, waffles.
In front of your dad?
Sorry, I know.
That's like putting a shiny toy in front of
I am a little hungry right now.
There's suddenly a bird looking around at the bright, shiny object.
We've lost him for the segment now.
Just parse your words. You know this better than I know this.
Listen.
You've dealt with this for 28 years.
Don't
throw out a waffle and not expect him to salivate like Pavlov's dog.
I have a limited time on this show, so if he talks less, I get to talk more. That's why I talk waffles.
Good point.
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, I'll take the rest of the day off. You guys keep going.
Hey, there we go.
And Serena Williams set to return to tennis next month with the Fed Cup. Williams' sister Venus and Coco Vandeweghe will team up when the U.S. Opens play against the Netherlands on February 10th and 11th in Asheville, North Carolina.
Just looking for her to come back and play. I mean, right? The best player ever, you know, and for the women's side, it maybe include the men's side as well, the way she's playing. So there are a lot of people wondering, okay, what is she going to do after childbirth?
She won last year's Australian Open while pregnant. So, listen, I have no idea where to go here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, none of us know how you're coming back from that one.
but I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how she does.
That's one of the things, if anyone's capable of it, though, it's the person that won a tournament while they were already pregnant, already defying the things the human body should be capable of. It is absolutely insane. You wish her all the best in that. And I mean, listen, part of it has to be exciting for her, too, coming back to this thing that you love so much, coming off of what's got to be, as I can only hear secondhand from you guys because I don't know, but the enriching experience of welcoming a child into the world.
Also, there's the part, remember when Tiger was as hot as could be early on, and the thought was, and even some of the past greats are saying, well, let's see how we can do once, you get a family going, you have kids, you have other responsibilities, how that changes your approach in your life, the laser focus that you have. Now, if there are others you're responsible for and others, especially kids that you love and want to be around, well, not only we're talking about how she's doing after giving birth, but she has a kid.
Right.
Now you have a kid. I mean, talk about a different focus and a much more important life focus than what you've been doing. You always wonder the focus on your craft at that point.
Well, and coming into it this late in her career.
Yeah. And we've seen this play out before, actually. Kim Clijsters was a former number one player in the world on the women's side. She took some time off to have kids and came back and won slams after that.
Right.
So it's possible.
Sure.
So if anyone else can do it, it would certainly be Serena Williams.
I ain't betting against her.
No. She came back and played that exhibition in December of 2017, but she said, I'm not ready yet. My game and I'm physically not where I need to be. And trust me, no one knows where she needs to be and how she'll be better than Serena. So we'll look forward to seeing her come back next month in the Fed Cup. Little guests coming up a little later on. We'll get Tim Legler in the 8 o'clock hour, our ESPN NBA analyst and rocker of one of the greatest mullets of all time in the 80s, to talk about maybe the All-Star snubs and what he thinks we can fix with the Cleveland Cavs. And maybe we should be paying a little more attention to the struggles right now of the Boston Celtics. 8:30, Joe Thomas will be in studio, and Junior will have left, so we'll have to find out from him why he's not answering your DMs. We'll make sure we get that on to you, though, Junior, so make sure you're okay.
Thank you.
9 o'clock hour, we got Herm Edwards, my road dog, former Eagles DB, and now currently trying to get things going at Arizona State as their new head football coach. We're always delighted to talk to Herm. And best-selling author James Patterson will join us as well to talk about the new book that he's undertaken that involves one of the teams playing in Super Bowl Sunday. But, guys, there's no other way to say it. One of the ugliest chapters in the history of sport in the world may be coming to a close today in Lansing, Michigan, as Larry Nassar, the former trainer with the USA Gymnastics, will be sentenced today in court as after the seventh day of a remarkable hearing where over 150 victims stood up and testified to the sexual abuse that they suffered at his hands when he was performing what they thought would be treatments under the guise of a doctor. It has been ugly. It has been awful. It has been everything you hate to see. It has been everything you never want to hear about as a parent when it's your child. And the fact that these numbers continue to grow is absolutely astounding when you talk about 150 people have come in and testified in this court case. The things that Larry Nassar did to them. He will be sentenced today in Wednesday in court to his sentence. He's facing a ridiculous number of charges, and we'll see how that all plays out. And that's the criminal side of it.
Right.
And now, Mike, the NCAA has begun an investigation into Michigan State on the handling of Larry Nassar's case because Larry was working at Michigan State while all of this was going on. And a lot of people are wondering, okay, we saw the NCAA get involved in Penn State with the Jerry Sandusky scandal, which by sheer numbers, this dwarfs that one in comparison that we know of. Let's be clear about that. And the NCAA waded into those waters, and they've sort of had to walk back some of the penalties, and some people thought it was a little clumsy about them getting involved in really a criminal matter. And R.J. Billis was interviewed by Bob Lee on Outside the Lines, and he believes the NCAA should not get involved here.
Given the action that was taken, Bob, in the Penn State matter, many people believe that it should be. I am not one of those. I think the NCAA acted outside the scope of its authority in the Penn State case and should not have acted in that regard. And the legacy of the NCAA action in the Penn State matter is that it is unlikely going forward that any institution will investigate itself because the NCAA used the free report against Penn State as a weapon to do whatever it chose and whatever it saw fit that was outside of the scope of its rules and its system. The NCAA does not govern criminal matters. As tragic and as horrifying as this is, the NCAA cannot be involved in these types of issues. It just doesn't work. And the association put itself in a bad position with the actions it took in Penn State.
Look, Jay Billis is one of the most thoughtful and knowledgeable guys when it comes to the relationship with college sports and the NCAA. And I think he makes a very interesting and compelling point about wading into waters that perhaps are outside not only your area of expertise and interest, but really that should not maybe perhaps involve you in the first place. What are your thoughts on this?
I thought this was interesting. Mike, I want you to go. I heard you talking about it this morning because it got into the cultural aspect of it as well. This with what happened in Penn State and how they got involved, and I think clumsy is a good word at times. Where do you sit on this?
It becomes interesting to me because I think Jay is right in that regard. When you look at what the NCAA is tasked with policing, it's not criminal matters like this, but much like the NFL, you've boxed yourself into a corner now to where his point about Mark Emmert failing to have any comments for what's going on in the sexual abuse scandal seems insane because you've already established you deal in this stuff now. You deal in punishing for these kind of acts the way the NFL did when it started assigning numbers to domestic violence cases as far as suspension and trying to regulate in that area clumsily at the beginning, but to a point now where you get to what happened with Zeke Elliott this offseason where the picture is less clear, but you're forced to punish to the full extent of the law because that's where you've put yourself in. And now while I agree that that is probably not the case, that just this should be left to the court, what I disagree with what Jay and Bob Lee said, and this was part of their larger conversation, was that this isn't a gymnastics culture problem, or Penn State wasn't a football culture problem. I don't know how you can say that because while these were evil people, they were singular forces, they were allowed to exist, and the reason that their crimes were so far-reaching is because they went unchecked when there were warning signs that were put out there. When people tried to wave a flag and say something is going on here, people that had a vested interest, that had a stake in the way that the system operated with this guy as a part of it, failed to do anything because the priority was the goal in that particular sport, in that particular field. And that, to me, screams culture. That's saying this is what we prioritize in this space. This is what we want to show you is important to us. That, to me, sounds like culture. So to say that that's not an issue is troubling. So how we regulate it, because Michigan State's getting sued, USA Gymnastics is getting sued. Right. The court of law will take care of that. But what do we come out here and say the day that all of this really started? We need to examine this process so that we can make sure it never happens again. Well, when you've got guys on the trustee board for Michigan State like Joel Ferguson basically belittling this process, saying that there are way more things going on at Michigan State than this Nassar thing, that this isn't Penn State, they were dealing with the football program. They know
like that matters.
It's just horrific.
That's so tone deaf. Yeah. It's beyond the pale.
And I don't want to make it sound like that's some unanimous position that the Michigan State board has taken. Mitch Lyons, who's also on that board, disagreed, and in his account of the meeting that involved the discussion of whether President Simon should step down or not at the university, said that he believed President Simon can't survive this. And even if Joel Ferguson's point about not wanting to part ways with his president because of everything else she's done, pointing out that they've got a great new basketball arena, all this stuff, that stuff is callous. The way that you framed this is horrific. Even if your point is, we think we have a capable leader who can maybe see us through this. But the way that you've showed us you view this is, no, we just prioritize these other things more. No, this just isn't comparatively as important as football, as basketball, and everything else. These people mean less to us is the way that is read to me and the way that other people have read that. So now I don't know how I'm supposed to have faith that the culture around there can support a place, or in other instances, this is not saying Michigan State's unique, but that we won't see instances like this pop up on a loop forever as long as we just keep saying, no, these are singular forces at work. We can't stop them.
So then the question comes down to is then what do we do so it doesn't happen again? See, I'm like, I have that thought process. I saw what happened at Penn State, and you saw what happened here. And my thought is, anybody that can nail them, nail them. If the school was complicit, nail them. Nail them all, but then you have to kind of take a breath and say, wait a minute, is this where the NCAA should be going? Should they be delving into this? This isn't, taking a handout of money, we're taking some shoes, but then there are those that are going to say, yeah, it's not. It's way worse. It's way worse. So why are you taking yourself out of that one and just leaving it up to the law, and right now the law is they're being sued. It's like nobody from Michigan State, which was unlike Penn State where others got prosecuted, nobody else, at least from what I understand, at Michigan State is being prosecuted. They're being sued. I don't know if anybody else, you were looking at jail time for anybody else like we did at Penn State. I want them to get in as much trouble as humanly possible, but you do have to take the pause and say, should that come from the NCAA?
Well, and you have to say what's helpful, because this was the other thing that I thought was an interesting corollary to the domestic violence policy, because I remember Sarah Spain and a lot of other people that did a great job in covering the NFL's stance on domestic violence is often the way it goes about. So punishing the abusers in a lot of instances, especially in cases where it is a spouse that's close to them, will actually be detrimental in the long run for people being willing to come forward and report these acts of violence. And so in this instance, I know Jay's point was also, if you've got the NCAA that's going to come over and beat you over the head for this kind of stuff, are schools less likely to self-investigate into things like this? Are they less likely to look inward and say, oh no, we've got a problem and we've got to fix this, if they're worried about sanctions and things that are going to affect their bottom line? Because again, we understand what their priority is, apparently.
Well, look, it's not just Michigan State. One of the reasons that Nassar's facing 125 years in jail is because there were 125 police reports filed.
Yeah.
125 police reports filed before finally some action was taking place here. So I want to say, to your point, I'm with you 100%. Whatever can be hammered against those that enabled or allowed this should be there. The question becomes, is that something that the NCAA should be involved with, or is that something that carries a much bigger penalty, criminal situations? Should we let those people handle that situation?
But even that punishment can only accomplish so much, right? Because again, if someone's punished, that allows you to look over and say they were the problem.
Right.
They were it. And that's the reason I dispute the idea that culture's not involved in this. Because what do we talk about in a completely different sense with the Cavs locker room? There's no accountability there. You've got no one from the top down. You've got disputes over where to take accountability. People are less likely to say, this was my part in this. This is how I want to be a part of fixing this. And so as long as you give someone an object that they can point to and say, no, you were wrong.
But don't you need something? I mean, listen, you need somebody or a group of people to say, okay, we're trying to find out where this happened. You people were in charge. You people got to go, or your school's got to get hammered.
That's happening right now in USA Gymnastics. And everybody has resigned.
And you need that to happen, but you need everyone in the system to self-examine, or else this stuff still has a space to happen. And however small it starts, if you give it room to grow, which is what happens when you've got a culture like that doesn't self-assess and is always looking to say, and this happens with sexism, with racism, with all of these different things, if you're unwilling to own your part in the whole machine, then all you do is allow it to happen because it means you're willing to ignore.
So real quickly, because the NCAA got involved in Penn State, do they have to get involved here?
I feel like they have to.
That they put themselves in the box to get involved here?
Does it sound like they're going to? If Mark Emmert's already not trying to go out of his way not to comment.
Well, I believe they
started an investigation.
They started an investigation.
Yeah, they started an investigation. It almost seems like they have to because of the Penn State thing.
We'll see where that leads. But again, the bottom line here is that the sentencing of Larry Nassar will be happening today in court in Lansing, Michigan.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Golick Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030. Mike Golick here. ADT, the #1 security company, can now help keep you safe at home and when you're on the go. Get started with the ADT Starter Kit professionally installed for only $49. Plus, you'll get ADT Go, the new family mobile safety app and service with 24/7 emergency response for free with any ADT security system. Go to ADT.com/podcast to learn more today.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSB and Easy Pay. Activation and early termination fees may apply. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com. Additional charge for ADT Go premium services after March 31st, 2018.
Mike, we'll get into over-under here in just a minute. But one thing that I've been hearing a lot of lately is Patriot fatigue.
Yes.
We're sick and tired of it, right? We're sick and tired of it. They win all the time.
Right.
Well, you know what? We always say we love dynasties, right? We have the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. Yeah, George Mason can win. Then when George Mason gets into the Final Four, it was like the lowest-rated semifinal game ever, okay? So if we say we enjoy dynasties, my advice to you is enjoy the hell out of what you're seeing out of New England right now.
Right.
It's never going to happen again. It will never. What we've been able to do, or they've been able to accomplish over 17 years, there's zero chance this is going to happen again. And the reason why I say this is before Brady and Belichick, the most combined Super Bowls by one coach and one quarterback together were 4.
Mm-hmm.
They've doubled it.
Yes,
this
they
is
have.
their 8th. This will never, ever in the history of the NFL ever happen again. So you can say you're tired of it, and that's fine. And if you're a fan of another team that keeps getting whooped on by the Patriots, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't appreciate this for what this is, I'm not sure really a sports fan.
Well, I think there are those who obviously you hate the big guy on the block, the bully on the block, and then for some of the things that have gone against them, that they've gotten in trouble for, that they look at, as the cheaters, right? Isn't it? Do you think that? How much do you think that plays into it? Because I think a lot of it is how we perceive that person. When you're great or you have a dynasty, whether you're an individual or a team, how do you like them? Are they a likable bunch? And for New England,
for Bill specifically, probably not very warm and cuddly.
Not warm and cuddly.
But neither is Nick Saban.
No, he's not. And there are probably those that how many people watched that national championship game hoping they would lose?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Wanting to see the big team fall, the dynasty fall. You want to build a team up, and then all of a sudden, when they're up on top for a long time, you're like, okay, time to knock them down. And oh, by the way, I don't like them very much as well. And you can see how Nick and Bill can grate on you a little bit, the way they go about their business and answer their questions. They're not these fun, lovable guys when you're talking to them. So does that go into it? Does that part of it? And then when you get the things that happen against you, where you get fined, you get suspended, you get in trouble for, where you're like, okay, now I'm not even sure of the way you're going about your business and doing it. I'm saying that of other people. Yeah. I think they're a dynasty. I think they're great. I think they're an unbelievable organization that prepares incredibly well and deserve exactly what they're getting right now, and that's another shot at a Super Bowl.
I think what you're saying is correct, but I also think people look for it to justify their own team's deficiencies.
Right.
I think a lot of times, Spygate, that's why we're 0-14 against you.
Right.
No, they're probably just better. They're probably just better. Now, there were issues with the Spygate. I think the Deflategate, as I called it on NFL Live, became the deflation sensation.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
It was about nothing.
Yeah, completely.
And eventually he was suspended 4 games because the court said, Roger said you can.
Right.
It wasn't about anything that actually happened. It was because you can do this? Yeah, okay, well, they said you can, so you can do it. So to me, that's part of it. But I do think a lot of people look at other things and say, well, that's why they keep beating us. No, the reality is they're probably just a lot better than you.
Yep.
Go back to the AFC Championship game real quickly. The penalties, it was 6-1. We did the math with our researcher. In the 34 games, penalties called against the Patriots, 164. Penalties called against all the other teams, 166. So over a span of 34 games, it was 2 penalties.
Right.
And oh, by the way, before the 6-1 in the AFC Championship game, the Patriots actually had more penalties called against them than the opponents.
Yep.
So I think
people pick one singular thing and then they hang on it. They white knuckle on that thing.
I get it. You don't like them winning. I understand that part of it.
They're better than you.
Yeah, and understand you'll never see this again. It will never ever. Mike Vrabel's a head coach. He played the last time the Patriots played the Eagles in Super Bowl 39.
Yep.
He's now a head coach. Tom Brady is still out there playing.
Yep.
It's insane. So just understand that part of it. If you hate it, that's fine. It'll never happen again, so you might as well enjoy it because it's remarkable. Okay, here we go.
Over, under, with Golick and Wingo.
Over Under brought to you by Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. Run your business from your mobile phone. See how it works at grasshopper.com. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Over Under, 38,387. The number of points LeBron James will score in his career, and obviously that's the points scored by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the most prolific scorer in NBA history.
LeBron currently sits in 7th place while he's the youngest to get to 30,000 points. His career average is 27 points a game. If he were to continue to do that, he would break the record in 309 games. If it were a 25-point average, 335 games. If it were 22.5 average, it would be 372 games. The first 2 I mentioned, he would break it in the 2021-22 season. He's really given us no reason to think he's coming down too much. Now, when you get older, it can happen quickly when it happens, or you can continue to hold it off. He's one of obviously the greatest players to ever play this game, one of the greatest athletes, keeps himself in incredible shape. Knock on wood, he has really stayed away from the injury bug. Again, knock on wood, because when you get older, that can certainly derail you quicker than anything.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
I'll see. There you go. I'll say over. I think he's going to get it.
I think he is too. And I think to some degree, I think he wants to get it. You know what I mean?
As much as he said that's not something you dream, and I get it. I get it. When you're growing up, you're not dribbling the ball around. When you're acting like you're shooting that game winner in Game 7 or catching that touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. Rarely it's, if I make this one, I'm going to be the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. Yep. I get it. You're not normally looking for that. But now, where it's kind of in reach and you see it a little bit.
I totally agree.
I could see it as, okay, I'm going for that.
Once you think that this might actually be attainable, then you think, maybe I will do that. So, look, again, I think we both agree. I'll take the over. I think he's going to get there. All right, next, over-under, 1.5. More consecutive losses by the Celtics until we start to worry about them like we do the Cavs. They've lost 4 straight.
4 straight. They play the Clippers tonight. After that, they play Golden State on Saturday, 8:30 Eastern on ABC. Tonight, it's 10:30 Eastern on ESPN. It'll be over. I'm not going to start worrying about them if they lose 2 more, especially the Clippers and then especially the Golden State. Yeah, I'm not going to start that worry too much. Now, let's see if they go on some kind of a losing streak, because we saw the winning streak they've gone on. But it'll take a little more than a couple more games to make me really start worrying. I don't think they're winning the East anyway. I'm still clinging to the Cleveland thing at least for a while longer.
Yeah, and look, the point here is that everyone keeps pointing to Boston as the team that will knock off the Cavs, even though there's the Raptors in between the two of them. But people sort of are forgetting. Oh yeah, but they're they play defense, they'll be fine. There are some legitimate concerns if you've lost 4 straight, and Kyrie's a little banged up right now with the shoulder issue. Yep. But you're right. I'll go over because the next couple I wouldn't surprise me at all if they lost. So I'm going to take a little longer on that one as well. All right, how about this one? Over under 4.5. New members elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Again, the announcement will be coming today at 6 Eastern.
You listen. There's only been over of that one time. One time has it, because you go over 4.5, that means 5.
Yeah.
One time.
Thanks for that. By the way.
Well, there you go. 5, it happened just once, and that was the inaugural class in 1936. Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Walter Johnson, Christy Mathewson, Honus Wagner.
That's a good class. I'm not going to lie to you.
So Chipper Jones and Jim Thome, first-timers, they're going to get in. Vlad Guerrero was at, 72%? Vlad's going to get in.
Close.
Trevor Hoffman was at 74%. You got to think he's getting in. So I think it'll be 4. So I'm Edgar Martinez kind of seems to be that wild card. Is he going to get in? I don't think he will this year. I think he was in the 50 percentile in that area last year.
That'd be a big jump from
he
one
was
year to the next.
58.6%. So I think it's going to be 4. So I'm going to go under.
I will absolutely go under because, again, only 3 times have voters elected 4 players in a year, and the only 5 was, as you said, the greatest class of all time.
What a group.
So ain't nobody in this class is going to be compared to that class in terms of overall depth. So I don't think so. Let's finish up one more here.
Okay.
Along those lines, over under 75% of the Hall of Fame vote for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. Again, this is their 6th year of their 10th year of eligibility as these steroid era players are now under scrutiny.
And the question says, did they get that percentage today? No, they do not. Last year, Clemens was just over 54%, Bonds just under 54%. I want to read I've got an email from Buster Only. I want to read in a little bit of his thoughts have changed about Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, whether they're going to get into the Hall or not. There's no way they're getting in today.
0. And
this is their 6th year, so they have 4 more under this current system before it goes to the Veterans Committee, where basically they're going to have no shot of getting in at that point. So there's this year and a few more. I have always said I think eventually they get in, but time is slipping away. It will be interesting to see if their percentage total increases from last year.
The idea that they could increase from those numbers to the 75% threshold this year is never. It's not going to happen.
But what will it get to? That to me is the question.
Well, because again, we're on the back end, back 9 of their 10 years of eligibility before they go to the Veterans Committee. So if it continues to creep up, it gets more interesting. That email from Buster, by the way, is very interesting.
Yes, it is.
We'll get into that.
Yes,
a couple
we will.
More over-unders, including one on Gronk that I think a lot of people will like. Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. All right, we're going to continue our over-unders here. You ready? We didn't quite get to them, all of them, because I distracted us. That's on, me.
And then at one point get to Buster's email.
Oh, you want to get to Buster's email first? You'll do that first?
We ended on the over-under 75% of Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens getting that percentage today. And without doubt, it's the under. It's not going to be. Buster has, for a long time, believed, like I have, that Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds were going to be voted into the Hall of Fame. And Buster emailed us this morning. He said, for the first time, I've come to believe they won't be voted in. It looks like this year they're going to get around 55, 56%, which would be just a tick up from where they are now this time around, and they only have 4 more shots. They are statistically flawless candidates, and he goes into the stuff that we know about that. But he is saying for the first time, he just doesn't think it's going to go up enough. Again, 54%, 53%. Does it go to 55, 56%? Then they'll have 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 10 years of the vote. Will it be enough? Will there be a change in the voters and I don't know how often change occurs, especially with the majority of it. I don't imagine a whole lot. Or is any information, anything else going to change any voter's mind to all of a sudden make that jump go from now to where it is to whether it's the 10th year, 9th year, 8th year, or whatever, up another 20%?
See, that's what drives me crazy about Hall of Fame votes, whether it's baseball or football or basketball. Take a guy like Bert Blyleven, okay? I understand a differentiation between a first ballot Hall of Famer
right.
and then a regular Hall of Famer. I get there's that distinction.
There is, right.
But and it's different because there are steroids involved here. I get it. But he's saying the trends aren't favorable. Well, for years, Bert Blyleven's trends were not favorable. Then lo and behold, 1 year out of the blue, hey, we got enough votes. What changed over a 12 or 20-year period
I think,
that suddenly made him a Hall of Famer that it wasn't before?
I think for voters, the other people they were voting for that year, did they think someone more deserved to be in at that time?
18 straight years or whatever it was?
I think they're all wacky. I mean, look at the NFL one right now, them keeping T.O. out because the writers, the high and mighty writers think that this is what they should be doing. And of course, in baseball, nobody will unanimously vote anybody in because nobody's ever been unanimously voted in, so you can't do it now.
Right.
Because it hasn't been done.
Which I think is ridiculous.
It's just ridiculous, the thought process, but it's where we are. And as we mentioned, for the first time, Buster believes now that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens will not get in the Hall of Fame.
By the eye test, as watching them perform, do you think there's any doubt in your mind for either one of those guys?
Oh, no, there's no doubt. And I don't think there's any doubt for anybody else, but people are going to say it was artificially done. And I'll keep going back to the argument I've made. Don't tell me the artificially done of others in past decades.
Greenies.
But I talk about that.
By the way, amphetamines, not the former host of the show.
And people always say, well, yeah, there's more effective steroids than amphetamines. Okay, that's fine, but some numbers are still artificial because of that.
Correct.
You can't just discount that and say, well, that's not as bad as this. It's ridiculous. To me, it's a ridiculous argument, but people keep having it.
Look, if Barry Bonds had never done anything, he might have been one of the 5 best players in the history of baseball.
That's absolutely right.
But then he saw the attention that Sosa McGuire getting home runs. He wanted the attention, and he got it. And either way,
you go.
And by the way, his record still holds. He's still counted as the guy with the most home runs.
People may not acknowledge it, but he's the record holder.
But it's the record holder.
And all-time and single season. Yep.
All right, so let's finish up over-under with at least this one. Quickly, over-under 69.5 yards for Gronk receiving yards in the Super Bowl.
I see what you did there. 68 yards he had in the last Super Bowl he played in, right?
6 receptions, Super Bowl 49.
And we don't even know, obviously he hasn't been cleared from the concussion protocol just yet. I have a feeling he will be. So, and if he is, barring him getting hurt again in that game, it's hard not to think that he's not going to be, one of the main targets. You saw Tom Brady literally forcing the ball to him in the first half,
which is what led to him getting hurt.
Right.
Actually,
so I'll go. There's I'd say if he doesn't get it, it's because he got nicked up in the game. If he doesn't, he's going to go.
Let's do it this way. Then the premise is that he plays. Let's do the premise that he plays.
Over.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. If Gronk is cleared and ready to go, and we don't know, by the way, we'll find out later on this week as they get set and what happens. He's got to go through the protocol and he has to pass the test. So for the purposes of this ridiculous number that we put out there, we're going to assume that he plays. I have to believe that if he does play, they'll feature him against the Eagles secondary, by the way, which sometimes has trouble with double moves.
They do, and Gronk, listen, not the swift as a foot double moving the heck out of everybody, but also a guy that I don't care how well you have him covered, I'll take my shot and throw him the ball. Because a lot of times he's going to come down with it. So that's going to be a lot of the fun matchups we're talking about as we get closer to the game and start breaking it down.
And again, this time next week, we will be in Minneapolis at the Hard Rock Cafe in the Mall of America doing our show.
Looking forward
Wednesday,
to that.
Thursday, and Friday. Best part about that show, we'll be indoors.
Yes.
Coming up, Tim Legler in studio making his Golic and Wingo debut. Has he ever congratulated himself on Instagram for his 3-point shooting prowess? We'll talk about that. Stay with us.